So welcome. Uh, Welcome to the call. I just want to check our guests
Hello,
are here.
everyone.
There we go. How are
Thank
you?
you. Hello. How are you?
Good.
Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you
Hello,
both.
everybody.
Yes, so I would like to do a little introduction for you both. I did look on LinkedIn, but also for this cohort, we're using ChatGPT to intro you, so you can sort of correct where it gets it wrong and if it hallucinates. But like you saw with Vittorio, I asked him, what is the one thing that people won't find out about you that wouldn't be on ChatGPT or LinkedIn. Like Vittorio, as he shared, is passionate about electronic music and sort of producing it. So yeah, so this is what ChatGPT says. It says, I'd like to introduce Professor Laura Viga, a leading figure in the biomedical engineering field, extensive expertise in navigating international market dynamics. Professor Vega has spent her career advancing innovative biomedical solutions and guiding technologies through the complex regulatory framework of major markets, with a focus on market access to the US. She brings invaluable insights into the compliance standards, strategic alliances, and industry connections essential for successful entry. Her deep understanding of regulatory science and biomedical engineering equips her to provide actionable guidance on securing a strong foothold in the US
This meeting is being
healthcare
recorded.
landscape. How was that, Laura?
It's a good description of my profile. I have expertise in medical device, with focus in the medical equipment and software of medical device. And we are located in Argentina, but we work with companies of other countries, and we also provide services for the US market.
Excellent. And then I'm just going to introduce Agnes as well. And so Agnes is a highly respected engineer known for her strategic approach to expanding biomedical innovation across Asian markets. Prof. Martinelli has a robust background in bridging technology and commercialization, particularly in regions with diverse regulatory and market environments. Her work focuses on creating pathways for biomedical solutions to enter Asia's complex healthcare sectors, offering insights on navigating local partnerships, regulatory approvals, and market needs. With her expertise, she sheds light on the essential strategies for companies aiming to establish a presence in Asia's rapidly evolving biomedical industry. How was that?
Oh, thank you very much for that description. What it doesn't say there is that we are very handsome people as well.
Oh, there we go.
No, just well, I think it's kind of a short description of the quite long expertise we've conquered at this point. And we were kindly invited today to share some quick review regarding the FDA requirements and maybe some useful information for entrepreneurs that are working or dealing with these issues nowadays.
No,
As soon
definitely.
as
And the
you
floor, the floor is yours. And essentially, market access and obviously the compliance and regulatory environment specifically for health tech and care and biomedical companies is key. So the floor is yours. And if anyone's got any questions, please raise your hands. Let's make this as interactive as possible. Thank you so much for joining us.
All right. So if you allow me, I will share some material we've prepared for you. Let me see here. All right.
Cool. I'll tell you when we can see it. Yeah, perfect.
You can see it? All right. Okay, so We will be talking about approaching new horizons with FDA. This is a quick review of the main regulatory aspects for medical devices to reach the US market. Just a quick introduction. We're Action Regulatory Advisory, and we provide services for the medical industry. And our goal is to assist with accurate consultancy to shorten the time to market of different medical devices. Me, as Will mentioned, I'm Agnese Martinelli. I'm a partner in Action. And Laura is also a partner. She's also an MBA, and she has an MBA, and we both teach in different universities here in Argentina. We have a young and talented team specializing particularly in electromedical devices. And after 15 years of experience, we've learned and developed easy methods to go through these pathways of different challenges that the medical industry has. We are located in Argentina, but we provide services worldwide. And well, first of all, just a quick introduction about the requirements. Just a quick, okay, now I see better the screen. So just a quick introduction of the FDA requirements for medical devices. As you may know, the FDA is the regulatory authority in the US for medical devices, but also for drugs, food, and biological products, and as well as veterinary products. This is a particular situation where a sanitary authority also cares about animal health. The regulation applicable to medical devices is established in Title 21 of the Code of the Federal Regulations, Chapter 1, Chapter I, Chapter H. And all companies planning to sell a medical device in the States must register their product with the FDA. Even though there are some particularities according to the class that we will discuss, all medical devices must be registered in the FDA. Let's move on. Let's talk about FDA approval advantages. I mean, why would we want to get the FDA approval? Well, first of all, to market access to the USA, in the USA, because FDA clearance allows the access in the USA, which is the largest medical device market. And also it has great global credibility because with prior FDA approval, the registration processes in many other countries become easier and much more efficient. It's important to mention at this point that for certain devices, for example, most class 2 devices, the cost and the timelines at this time is shorter and easier than obtaining a CE mark, which is also a goal for a project that is intended to expand their markets. So the very first step we must take is to be familiar with the medical device definition of the FDA, which has 3 main parts. Also, it is intended for any instrument, apparatus, implement, machine, any sort of device that can be either recognized in the national formulary, which has an intended use, whether it is for diagnosis, cure, mitigation, treat, prevent of any disease or condition. And also if it is intended to affect the structure or function of any parts of whether the body of any human being or animal. There are some exclusions in particular regarding to software, in which there are some exemptions. If the device, in this case, software, is meant for administrative support of a healthcare facility, to serve as an electronic patient record, for maintaining or encouraging lifestyle, in general, all wellness products or devices, and also for transferring, only storing or converting formats, or maybe showing some laboratory information, those softwares are do not fit or meet the definition of medical devices, and so they are excluded of registration. So the main question we must ask, or the main question that entrepreneurs ask themselves when they start thinking about regulatory frameworks is my product a medical device? To start developing an answer to this main first question, we shall, after checking the definition we've shared just a few seconds ago, we shall dig into the classification database. All of this material will be available for you to, just to review it anytime you need, and the links are there. You have to dig into the classification database and the different types of submission databases that we are going to talk specifically in a few seconds. In case you're still unsure about the proper classification of your device and the right submission you must prepare, you can write by email and through different portals that the FDA has in order to request for formal classification. In case we don't fit that medical device definition, and we check and we go through different types of submissions and questioning with FDA, and we find that the FDA clearance is not required, we must say that we have to stay compliant, because even though FDA might not be required, companies must avoid making unauthorized medical claims, and they must ensure that product safetyness is guaranteed. Also, false advertisement can result into penalties and enforcement actions. So let's move on, and let's think that we have a medical device and we have to classify it. Unlike the rule-based classification schemes used in Europe and in many other countries, in Argentina as well, FDA medical devices in the FDA are classified through a predicate-based system, which sets three different classes: class 1, 2, and 3. Class 1 devices are considered, in general, low-risk devices, and they are only applicable for general controls, and they can be registered automatically in the FDA without obtaining an authorization. While class 2 devices are medium risk, in general, they request general controls, and they must, beside the general controls, they must meet also the special controls, and they are cleared by the 510K submission. This is the name of the type of procedure we must go through. And then we have the class 3, which in general are high-risk devices, and they go through the pre-market approval, which is normally known as PMA process. And this goes or applies for cases where no substantially equivalent predicate device is found. And so it goes through a more complex process. Then we have something else that we would like to mention at this point, that if a novel device shown not to be a risky one, like a high-risk one, shows or founds or can demonstrate reasonable assurance of safety and effectiveness, it can be reviewed and placed into market as a class 1 or class 2 under some special submission, which is named de novo. Something that we highly recommend when you start considering about submitting a an FDA procedure, and well, to classify your device under the FDA framework is to consider the pre-submission option, which is a formal interaction between the manufacturer and the FDA to address some specific questions related to the regulatory pathways. What we are looking for at this point is to agree good or adequate regulatory strategy and to be confident on it. As a result of this submission, the applicant will receive a written feedback from the FDA, and there are no costs associated at this point, which is a good thing also. There you have some of the steps that it goes. You have the acceptance review, and then you schedule a meeting, and then the submission happens, and you receive also some written feedback. And well, if the meeting actually, which can be by a video call or personally, is requested because it's optional, you get that time to discuss the project, and you also get the meeting minutes sent by email after that. So it's something to consider, and it's a good start in general. If we move on and we discuss a little about the general and special controls, we mentioned before that general controls apply to all medical devices, whether they are class 1, 2, or 3. And they include establishment, registration, the device listing, labeling requirements, and it also includes the GMP, the good manufacturing practices. Also, it is mentioned all the things related to the adverse event reporting and the pre-market notification when it is applicable. Regarding the special controls, they apply to class 2 and 3 besides the general controls, and they are more specific and risk associated with the device, and they require some information regarding safety and performance standards, the post-market surveillance, guidance documents, and some specific labeling and clinical data requirements. So if we make an overview about the things we were talking at this point, we have low-risk exemptions in general class 1. We have the 2 main types of submissions, the pre-market 510(k) and the pre-market approval. And as we mentioned before, the classification 1, 2, and 3, it depends on the existence or not of a predicate device. So class 1 in general, it's exempted from pre-market approval, and they are only listed. And then you have class 2, which requires the 510(k) clearance, and the class 3, which requires the PMA approval. There is some innovation flexibility here, and we want to mention this in particular because of the type of audience we are talking to at this point, and is that the FDA encourages innovation by offering some flexibility in pathways, especially for low risk or novel products through this de novo submission that we mentioned before. In general, in this chart, we get to see that is a comparison chart about all the requirements for each pathway. If we start from class 3 on your right, you get to see that beside the implementation of quality management system, clinical studies, if they are required, you need to, well, request a special exemption, and then you have to submit the PMA application, and then the FDA conducts the inspections at the manufacturing facilities. After that, FDA issues the PMA approval letter, and there is this is the most complex process or pathway that we are heading if we are talking about a class 3 device. If we were talking about a class 2 device, the inspections conducted by the FDA are not going to happen just before the clearance letter is given, right? So this is one of the main differences here. And if we move to the class 1, well, you don't need to submit the pre-market notification, and there is no clearance letter or approval letter before marketing the device. You do have, though, to implement the quality management system. And in any of the 3 cases, the manufacturer must comply fully with the 21 CFR. And if in case the manufacturer is not based in the States, they must appoint a US agent to be the contact with the FDA. The listing of the device is also mandatory. And well, finally, the marketing of the product can begin in the US market. And well, it's important to mention that the authorization does not expire as long as there are no significant changes in the device. Annually, the establishment registration must be maintained by paying a fee. So let's see an example of what we are talking about. To determine the applicable classification for a specific medical device, we shall consult the product classification database. And so we made some short example about, for example, an oximeter. If we type here an oximeter on our right, on our left, I'm sorry, we get to see the full options of different types of oximeters and the regulation number, and of course the device classification. If we zoom in here, we have the full data regarding the regulatory pathway and the classification for this specific product or device. And it's important, for example, to mention that the special controls are also mentioned here. So we have just a quick review of the main requirements that FDA is expecting for us to comply with. In this chart, we would like to share some of the main differences between the 510K and the PMA submission, which we mentioned before is the normal procedure according to the classification of the devices. So the main objective of a 510K submission is to demonstrate the substantial equivalence to an existing FDA-approved device, which is normally named as predicate device. While in the PMA, we have to demonstrate the safetiness and the effectiveness through the clinical data. The evidence required in the PMA, it's much more complex in order to demonstrate the safetiness and effectiveness we mentioned. And also we must address the full design and manufacturing documentation. Well, and in 510K in general, it relies only on the comparison with approved devices as well on the design data and performance and safety testing. Regarding the cost in both submissions, we have FDA fees, but also we must consider the clinical study cost in the case of the PMA, which are rather expensive. So it's something to take into account. And also, if we take a look into the process duration, the FDA, the 510K is shorter. It lasts for 90 working days for an FDA review, and it can go up to 12 months in the case of PMA. Regarding the facility inspection, we mentioned that only in PMA it requires the manufacturing inspection of the facilities just before the approval. And in the 510K submission, it is not required before the product is cleared, though we know we can be randomly inspected by FDA at any point. We have here some of the regular FDA fees. There is one important difference we have here is that we can demonstrate we are a small business, and then we get the 25% of the regular fee, which is which is something that is very significant if you get to see the amounts here. Then you have the annual establishment registration fee over here and through the different processes there. If we talk a little about the good manufacturing practices that must be implemented in all medical devices manufacturers, the compliances with the QSR is mandatory for all classes. And well, there might be some exceptions in class 1 devices, but in general, it's all mandatory. It is outlined in the 21 CFR part 820, and it sets the requirements for all manufacturers to ensure that their products meet the quality standards through their entire life cycle. The quality system regulation is currently transitioning into a new rule that recognizes the ISO 13485 standard, along with some certain specific FDA requirements. This rule will only be applicable since February 2026. So we still have time to talk or to discuss about it. Here we have some short screenshot about the index of the 21 CFR 820 quality system regulation, and you get to see the different parts of and titles of, just to get a full picture of the scope of it. What shall we expect about the FDA inspection and audits? Well, first of all, internally, each organization shall conduct routine audits, which might be assisted by a third party, but they are in general done or run in order to confirm the compliance with the quality system regulation. And on the other hand, the FDA conducts these inspections to ensure that medical device manufacturers comply with those regulatory requirements we mentioned and other relevant laws. Those inspections can occur at any time, normally every 2 years. And also they can be, as we mentioned, they might just randomly inspect some manufacturer, often triggered or by specific concerns, or maybe because of a report or an adverse event or some kind of violation that happens. Government officials are the ones that normally conduct those inspections. And also, it prioritizes the inspections in the companies which already sell their products in the US. Of course, we have furthermore to talk and to discuss. Here we have some of the main titles that a manufacturer shall take into account if they are, just starting to consider a project of this sort. But we are running out of time, and it's very complex. Of course, we would like you to keep in touch with us. Of course, we are open to answer some questions if we are in condition to discuss it or to give you an answer right away. And for some particular cases or any detail you'd like to share with us, feel free to contact us. There you have our email. We can maybe schedule some short video call and discuss it in particular. But of course, we're open to any question you may have at this point. Thank you very much for your attention.